Hey, welcome to the pilot episode of Everybody's a Critic. I'm Pat Casey.
And I'm Scott Eshelman.
And this is the video podcast where we're looking for the greatest movies of the 21st century. And what's better way to do that than putting the critics up against the average moviegoers? So we look through the top 100 movies with the critics, top 100 movies with the moviegoers, and we battle them out, and we have a great battle today.
Yes, we do.
We've got, for the critics, 100 on their list, Requiem for a Dream.
And number 100 off of the audience list, Big Hero 6.
Right, so we have the greatest don't do drugs movie ever made, and the greatest fluffiest superhero of all time, I guess.
He is cuddly.
He's very cuddly. So, to get some background on this, so we know the stats, the tail of the tape for each of these movies, we're going to go ahead and throw it to my fellow Gleam teamers, Matt and Catherine, over at the Screenplay Speakeasy. I guess that's what they're calling it. So let's go ahead and throw that to them.
What's up, Pat and Scott? Are you ready to get down to business?
What's up?
What up? Kath and I just rediscovered What's Up, of course, as an homage to Marlon Wayans' legendary role in the classic movie, Scary Movie.
Is that what we're talking about today?
No, unfortunately, we're not here to talk about Scary Movie. That did not make the top 100 anyone's list, except for ours. But we're not talking about our top 100. We're here to talk today about Requiem for a Dream and Big Hero 6.
All right, and Matt, you've got Requiem for a Dream, right?
I've got Requiem for a Dream. This movie was made in... I've got Requiem for a Dream.
I don't get that reference.
No, it's not a real song.
Okay.
This movie was made in 2000, and it just barely made it on this 21st century list. It was number 100 on the BBC's critics list, and it was 93% on the Rotten Tomatoes audience score.
And you've seen this?
I've seen this a few times.
Okay.
I've muscled through this one. This is a tough one to watch. This was directed by Darren Aronofsky. It's based on the novel by Hubert Selby Jr., who co-wrote the screenplay with Aronofsky. This is starring Ellen Burstyn, Jared Leto, Jennifer Connelly, and Marlon Wayans. Marlon Wayans in a out-of-character serious role. Obviously,
What's up?
What's up?
Matt, do you have any interesting trivia for Requiem for a Dream?
All right, some cool trivia here. Ellen Burstyn was nominated for Best Actress at the Oscars that year. She ended up losing to one Miss Julia Roberts for her role in Erin Brockovich. This is Darren Aronofsky's follow-up to 1998's Pi, where Aronofsky won Best Director at Sundance. Some other things to get the overwhelming feeling of addiction and loss of control. There are 2,000 cuts in this film, making it feel really manic and crazy. Just for reference, the average film has about 600 to 700 cuts, so a markedly greater amount. Jared Leto ended up losing 25 pounds to portray the role of a Harry Goldfarb, where he obviously has to play a man stricken by heroin addiction. Darren Aronofsky asked both Jared Leto and Marlon Wayans to avoid all sugar and sexual activity for 30 days to create a feeling for both actors of overwhelming craving. So, pretty hardcore.
That they used real junkies as the extras?
Yeah, some of the extras were real junkies, and also Jared Leto, who's known to be a bit of a method actor, actually went on the streets of New York during filming and befriended actual junkies to kind of indoctrinate himself in that culture.
Surprises me none.
So Matt, can you tell us about the budget for Requiem for a Dream?
So Requiem for a Dream had a budget of about $4.5 million. It made just over $7 million, so made a profit, a modest profit. And we're going to head now from the streets of New York to the fictional city of San Fran, Tokyo, with Big Hero 6. Kath?
He butchered that, guys. It's San Francisco. Duh.
It's San Fran, Tokyo.
It's not Tokyo.
100%.
No, let's shake. Let's shake, baby. The YouTube's watching, baby!
San Fran, Tokyo.
There's no T in San Fran, Tokyo. It's not Tokyo.
Matt, it's San Francisco.
Wait, what is that?
San Francisco.
It's San Francisco.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that I'm not usually wrong. That's not true. So, I concede defeat. We're traveling from New York to San Francisco.
There you go, boo. All right, so this is Big Hero 6. It's got the audience rating of 91% on Rotten Tomatoes and a critics rating of 89%. It's pretty close there. It was directed by Don Hall and Chris Williams, and it stars Scott Adsit, T.J. Miller, Damon Wayans Jr., and Ryan Potter.
From one Wayans to another.
What's up?
What's up? And Damon Wayans Jr. is I can't take you seriously when you're saying what's up. Damon Wayans Jr. is the nephew of Marlon Wayans, who's in Requiem for a Dream.
Mm-hmm. There's the connection. There's also a great...
Don't do this. Connection.
There is the connection. There's also a great reference to Requiem for a Dream in this movie. Pat just told us about it when they are doing their little robot testing. Yeah, sure. Sure, Pat, give me the thumbs up on that. Yeah. All right. This won the Oscar for the 2014 Best Animated Feature. We saw this in the movie.
Theater.
Right?
We saw this in the movie.
we saw them win this in the movie.
Yeah, so we went to the theaters to see this, as we do for most new Disney animated features. And yeah, this movie's great. Very markedly different from Requiem for a Dream.
This is based off the Marvel graphic novel, but a new story and a new setting, so basically a name only. Alright, and some fun trivia about this movie is this is Disney Animated Studios' first superhero film. And this movie kind of toes the line between Disney and Pixar. They're both highly involved in this movie, which is not common. This movie has 85 animators, and because it is based on a Marvel graphic novel, Stan Lee makes his famous cameo appearance in this. It's a great one. It's one of my absolute favorites. And T.J. Miller, who's someone I love from all other things he's in, improv most of his exclamations in this movie. So it's a good one. It's written all over my face. I love this movie.
Catherine, what's the budget for Big Hero 6?
And Big Hero 6's budget was $165 million, and it ended up bringing in around $657 million. So that kind of pummels Requiem for a Dream right off the bat.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Requiem for a Dream has a little less of a audience. I don't think the same amount of scope of people are seeing Big Hero 6 that are going to see a gritty heroine drama.
But the other thing is, this is also not, in the most recent years, one of Disney's hugest animated hits. It's really not. It came up back-to-back with Frozen, so you're looking at Frozen's redheaded stepchild?
Sure.
Sure.
So, Big Hero 6 or Requiem for a Dream? I think I know your answer. Yeah, I have to go with Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, what's that?
What's up? I love Disney, admittedly. This is actually one of my favorite Disney movies that I've seen in recent years. But I just think that when you're looking at the pantheon of films that have come out from 2000 to present, I don't think that I'd be looking back on Big Hero 6 and saying that it made a bigger impact on me than Requiem for a Dream. I remember how that movie makes me feel. I remember the performances in that movie. It leaves an indelible mark on me in a really profound way, and I don't think Big Hero 6 does that. While it's a remarkably charming film, I do not think it has the same impact that Requiem has.
Well, you clearly haven't been on the I Love Disney Everything Tumblr, Matt, because just yesterday I stumbled on this awesome piece of trivia. I won't give any Big Hero 6 spoilers away, but at the very end, Hero is faced up against Baymax, and you can see in his reflection of his eyeballs, he's actually seeing his brother. God, that's so much better than Requiem for a Dream. But this is enough to us. What do you guys think?
All right, so we just got the background information. Thanks, Matt and Catherine. Based on that background, I guess you could say that Big Hero 6 has a little bit of a leg up with the Academy Award. that Requiem for a Dream did not receive.
Well, Requiem for a Dream has a little bit of a leg up in terms of already having a legacy established for 15 years. So, those are certainly considerations. But what's your gut feeling? What jumps out at you between these two movies?
All right. Well, when you're looking at these two films, the first thing that comes to my mind is that there are, in almost every category of the movie, technical, music, cinematography, you have something that is a lasting effect for film. So, for example, technically, the Snorri cam, okay? That is something that I think that's the camera rig that they use. They like mount it onto the person's body. Throughout the film, the camera's like pointing right at them and they move around and it's like the camera is, you're like there, you're like sitting on the person's shoulders. It's kind of very like first person, kind of like computery type thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is, if you want to look at something that got copied and done to death like over and over and over again, it was that technique. And if you look for the genesis, I mean, it was in other movies before then, but if you look for the genesis of that, you're going to look at Requiem for a Dream. So that has a legacy in there already.
Well, and actually, Matt threw another reference out when he was doing his recap of one of the cinematic techniques that we were looking at, which was when Sarah Goldfarb was going through her initial freak out, I guess, from the amphetamines, the way that they filmed that scene, going, kind of slow motion and yet fast at the same time. How would you describe that exactly?
Well, they ramp up. What they did is she shot it, but they shot it like her going through it at a high film speed, and they cranked it up, and then that makes it go super fast. So,
and then they repeated that sort of a thing in Big Hero 6
right,
in the other scene.
That's what Catherine said.
Right.
Like, that reference, Big Hero 6 actually has a reference to Requiem for the Dream in it. So, I mean, you could even say there that
there's a certain amount of significance to a movie if you're throwing back to it from a future movie. So that's true, too.
So technically, I would say we're going to go I would go with Requiem for a Dream. Another thing in there is the score. Okay, the Kronos Quartet score. That score, we're filming this on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to flip on the TV right now, put on a football game, I'm sure in one of the games they will play that score, that iconic score somewhere in there. And it's been in almost everything. You can see it in trailers. It's used a lot in trailers. It is something that's lived on from the film, kind of apart from the film, but it is genesis from that film.
The other interesting thing I think about these two movies is that they deal with similar, very different and yet somehow similar topics. Mm-hmm. There's loss in both of these. Mm-hmm. In Big Hero 6, you're dealing with loss of a family member, loss of a brother. In Requiem for a Dream, you're dealing with the loss of their dream, however misguided it may have been.
Sure, yeah.
But those are kind of some similarities. From there it's completely different. Like you said, Requiem is an anti-drug movie in its purest form. Don't do heroin, obviously. Yeah, right. But, I think it's not exactly apples to oranges in this case, because there are some thematic similarities between them.
Right, yeah. And I know we're talking a lot about Requiem for a Dream right now, but like Big Hero 6, to me, everything that's in Big Hero 6 is done better in another Disney animated film.
That's interesting.
Like, you have the robot stuff, which I think is done better in WALL-E. I think the loss and dealing with that is done much better in Inside Out. I mean, that whole movie is pretty much about dealing with like being sad. And even like the superhero element of it, like that is sort of like what sets it apart, is that, it's a Marvel movie done by Disney. That is done much, much better, in my opinion, in The Incredibles. So you have all those movies that came out around Big Hero 6, and I mean, I liked Big Hero 6. It's a really good, it's fun. It's a fun movie. But if I were to say in like 5 or 10 years, would Big Hero 6 be something that you could go back to and be like, this is something that you can remember? Yeah,
let me ask you a question. Maybe it's kind of an elephant in the room.
Okay.
If you're dealing with movies that are iconic, does rewatchability play into your formula at all? Like, with Requiem for a Dream, it's a significant movie. It sends a powerful message. I'm not anxious to watch that movie again.
Right, but you do remember it.
Sure.
Like if I come back to you 10 years from now and I'm like, hey, do you remember Requiem
Jennifer
for a
Connelly?
Dream? Yeah, yeah. Or do you remember like a scene or something from Requiem for a Dream? I guarantee you'd be able to tell me something, anything from that movie. If I came back to you and said, can you tell me something about Big Hero 6? You might be able to be like, oh, that was like a superhero thing. But you might not remember a lot of the details or the nuance behind that movie.
That's true.
I think it's going to... Unfortunately, it's like one of those movies that you without going back... I mean, it is rewatchable. It's a fun movie. But without, like, constantly going back and watching it, it fades into obscurity. I mean, we watched it not too long ago, and it's already kind of starting to fade back there.
Yeah, that's true. I would agree with that. Even as somebody who does enjoy that, Disney Pixar genre, I think you're right. I think it, even in the pantheon of Disney and Pixar movies, it probably isn't on the top of that heap, just because, like you say, there's other movies that have done better things.
Right. So, and then on top of that, I mean, just like the actual craft of Requiem for a Dream, you have like that hip hop montage, which is like the quick cuts, the synced up to some sort of like techno music or something like that. You'll see that is duplicated a lot. Now, I think Requiem for a Dream comes in with a little bit of an advantage, being that it came out much way before Big Hero 6 came out. So you have Big Hero 6, who's only been out like within a year, but it's not there's not that fresh feeling about it. If they weren't announcing that there would be a sequel coming out, I mean, it kind of has faded back, I think.
That's true. I think the other thing too is that with Requiem for a Dream, with a film that is that far back, that critic score is solid. Whereas you could see the Big Hero 6 audience score decrease over time as it kind of does take that more obscure path, if that's where it's going,
right,
in the long run. Now, just as kind of a devil's advocate here,
okay,
some of the things that I think that Big Hero 6 did really well that do stand out to me from that movie, backgrounds and scenery really jump out in my mind, and we're seeing some of the pictures from Big Hero 6 rolling along here. San Francisco, that skyline, all of the scenes from that showed that cityscape, great. And those will jump out at me for a long time.
Sure. I mean, like, obviously, it's a craft of putting it in... Like, Disney movies look great. Like, they do. But if I were to throw up just a random still of a Disney, like, that background, like, you can confuse it for any number. I mean, there's not anything... Usually, the one thing I was looking for when I was doing my research about Big Hero 6 is usually they need to create something. There's usually something that they have to develop, or some sort of software. Like for Tangled, it was the hair, like,
sure.
Or for like Monsters Inc., which is a Pixar movie, but it was like the fur and stuff like that. Or for Finding Nemo, it's the water. I couldn't find anything really in Big Hero 6. I mean, feel free to tell me how wrong I am in the comments, but I couldn't find anything really in there that was like, we developed this for this, and it's something that they can build upon in other movies. So like I said, I don't think that Big Hero 6 has a lot of, like, if I were to pick out a movie from that time period, even like the movie that I think stands out for this time for Disney, it would probably be Frozen more than it would be Big Hero 6. And they came out like right next to each other.
Time. Yeah.
So I think it even gets overshadowed in its own...
Well, and that's reflected in the parks for sure. If you
Right.
look at Disney's overall product, Big Hero 6 does not get much product placement, park placement. It's a very small portion.
Right. There's no rides or anything for Big Hero 6, right?
No, the most you can find is like a balloon that has Baymax on it. But
I mean, I'm not looking for like there to be like Requiem, the Dream, the
well,
ride.
yeah, that would be a pretty tortured journey. That's at
But-
Universal Studios,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, ride the movies. Yeah, right. You can be like
You can actually get heroin at the beginning of the ride.
Get your arms cut off.
You know, the interesting thing to me about this one too was Marlon Wayans' performance, because I'm so used to him in other, genres, comedy genres. To see him in this dramatic role was pretty impressive.
Right, and even acting wise between the two, I mean, I love T.J. Miller. I think he's great. But there are better T.J. Miller movies. I think his performance in Deadpool. I'm gonna take away my sorry, Clay. I'm gonna take away my nerd card. In Deadpool it's a better like standout T.J. Miller performance. In Requiem for the Dream, you have Marlon Wayans has a standout performance where you want to be like, if you want to see how good he is.
Yeah.
Even Ellen Bernstein, who was, she's already amazing in The Exorcist as the mom in The Exorcist, but this film I think really stands out as her like golden performance. Where if you want to even pick out actors, Jared Leto. Mm-hmm. Jared Leto. This is probably the least annoyed I've ever been with him in a movie. But
they also have a lot of variance in their role. Like they go from the highs to the lows,
right?
And it really does depict that heroin addiction, amphetamine addiction. Mm-hmm. I think they do a good job of showing you those highs and lows in their performances, and it's all four of those main characters really do a good job of that.
So I think what we're getting to here is whether or not what do we think here. So
yeah,
I'm gonna side with Requiem for a Dream on this one. I think Requiem for a Dream is a movie that you're going to be talking about for decades to come. Yeah. I think when you talk about the hip hop montage stuff that you still see today, the Snorri cam, which is the actual technical thing that's used today, the score, the acting, like the key performances, I think they all favor Requiem for a Dream, and the fact that it came out 2003, I believe?
Yeah, it was early on in the 2000s.
So it came out then, and we're still talking about it today, is something that is, I think, sides with the Requiem for a Dream, whereas with Big Hero 6, unfortunately, it came out in 2015, and we don't even...
We're already talking about it being a more obscure Disney Pixar. Yeah. So the other thing, too, is that we talked about Requiem for a Dream having that staying power already, and Big Hero 6 not having the staying power. I think even if you put Requiem for a Dream up against maybe another Disney movie, it might have been a fairer fight. Mm-hmm. If you had, say, Frozen in this slot, that becomes a much more difficult fight. But just given where Big Hero 6 was, I have to agree with you. I'm going to go with Requiem for a Dream as the movie that stands in the pantheon of movies from the 21st century.
All right, so you've heard it first. Our first battle, Requiem for a Dream versus Big Hero 6. Unfortunately, Baymax is going to have to go fix his boo-boo for being hurt. He needs a hug. You can give him a hug.
Are you satisfied with your care?
I am satisfied with my care. Yeah. Number 100 for us, then, is Requiem for a Dream. If you don't agree with what we just said or our viewpoints, please feel free to put in the comments what you think. Requiem for a Dream versus Big Hero 6, which one you think comes out. And if you have some good points, maybe you'll sway one of our opinions. Yeah. So Scott, where can they find you on the internet?
They can find me at Scott Eshelman, all one word, on Twitter.
Okay, and they can find me at GleamTeam_Pat1. Special shout out, of course, goes to Rita Whitney for making our beautiful art, our beautiful logo for Everybody's a Critic. You can go to her art studio at Prime Art Supplies on 128 West King Street.
East King Street.
East King Street. I always get that wrong. It's East Side, not West Side. Is that West Side?
And it's York, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's York, Pennsylvania. Last time people were like,
we don't know where to go.
No, exactly. So go on down there. She's got a lot of stuff for you, and you can make your own logos if you'd like. So thanks again, and make sure you like this video, comment on the video.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we have our YouTube channel page now, Gleam Team Pop Culture Podcast on YouTube. So please go over there, subscribe. Do you have anything else coming out that you want to promote while we're here?
No. we're good.
All right, so we'll see you in 3 weeks then. This is a tri-weekly podcast, so we'll see you in 3 weeks where we have In America versus the Gleamers and I, which I don't think I've seen that one. So
I haven't seen either of those movies, so this should be interesting.
I mean, you don't see anything, so this should always interesting. Get in with the dig before we leave.
Yep, not a problem.
All right, so thanks again, and our fellow Gleam teamers, Matt and Catherine, you can find their Twitter at for Matt, Matt has ideas, and for Catherine, Gleam Team _cat with a K-A-T. All right,
Both on Twitter.
both on Twitter, yes. So all right, Requiem for a Dream, you will live on.